this groaning, the pain in the land, which you can literally see as you walk on the streets of Nigeria. And I hear people say to me that we must hope. That if we give a little more time, hope will return. And I say this is a lie from the very depths of hell. And I do not say that just to express an emotional outburst from the painful realities of now. I take example from Nigerian history. In 1956, there was hardly any industry in Nigeria. Colonial Nigeria did not industrialize Nigeria, understandably, because it was for the export of raw materials to Europe. But by 1956, 1957, self-government came. And young Nigerian men and women who take on the reins of government recognized that their country needed to be industrialized if they were going to provide jobs for people. Within 3 years at independence, and I'm not going to go into all that, you can read Pius Okibo and Nigerian Public Accounts and all of that. Manufacturing had gone from next to zero to 20% of GDP. How did they do it? And 3 years after a government, they are telling us to be patient. But I will get to the analysis of that much later. I want to say that what I feel in the lived experiences of people tell me that something is fundamentally wrong with a system that says to poor people, be patient. And those who are saying be patient to them are buying new jets. And those who are saying be patient to them are buying new fleets of cars. And those who are saying be patient while these people are dying are buying yachts. Economic injustice in Nigeria will cripple all of us if we don't do something very quickly. And so that's my preamble, that the conscience is challenged by this reality. And I go to my prologue. My prologue goes to the fact that I had the great privilege of growing up down the road, less than 2-3 miles from here. I went to school here in Ibadan, in a college called Loyola College. And when I was at Loyola College, just as I was finishing, there was a riot, not a riot, there was a demonstration by students at the University of Ibadan. One student, Kunle Adigweju, was killed by police bullets. For several years, Nigerian students continued to rise, seeking justice for that. And when I arrived at the University of Nigeria in 1973, the first thing that I did was become part of the leadership of protests to get justice for Kunle Adigweju. Today, children, young people in the universities cannot speak up because they say that every time they come out to express themselves, they are slaughtered by law enforcement agencies. Can this be the same country that we live in? A second point about my time in Ibadan and what we are seeing is that back in those days, we saw Nigeria begin to industrialize, as I said, in 1956, 57. And that industrialization provided for all as we grew up. We took it for granted that if you left school, there was a job for you. And I walk around today and young people feel that they will never have a job. I have people who have been out of university 10 years applying for jobs. And now they don't even know what it is to find work. Another thing that my time in Loyola College did to me, and I always remember it, when I see the remarkable secretary of the ADC, is that my mates in class sang their own oriki to remind themselves of whose sons they are. Two Omoluabis, people of character. We came to school to be people of character. And here in Ibadan, not only was Loyola a flying example of that, but even our competition down the road, Government College Ibadan, managed to do the same. And being privileged to have had some of them, like Dr. Christopher Kolade as mentor, his classmates like Professor Ladipo Akinkube, live out in the reality of their lives that character. I can tell you for free that the problem of Nigerian economy is the lack of character in those who are running it today. Because if there is no character, you cannot build trust. Uncertainty sets in. And I can tell you as a man who wrote a book titled Managing Uncertainty, Confusion and Strategy in Emerging Economies, that a big part of the challenge of today's economy is that you cannot trust policy. You do not know if it is aimed for private interest or to advance the common good. And so that lesson from my days in Ibadan has come out to matter very significantly. I would like therefore to say that because of the recognition of the importance of character, even a school in Owerri borrowed a motto that says this, and I can't give you full because I used to use it to illustrate to businessmen how to run the world. When wealth is lost, nothing is lost. I've seen people who have become billionaires and gone bankrupt and become billionaires again. When wealth is lost, nothing is lost. When health is lost, something is lost. When character is lost, all is lost. And the tragedy of the moment in Nigeria is that character has been lost in a remarkable way. My parents recognized this and they chose Catholic education to get that out. Because they made that choice, I was first going to get into St. John's in Kaduna. It was the leading Catholic school in northern Nigeria. When the challenges of 1966 made me move back south, and I started in the leading Catholic school in Eastern Region, Christ the King's College, Onitsha. And when the Civil War started, I moved west and came to the leading Catholic school in Western Nigeria, Loyola College, Ibadan. And so I know a thing or two about character, and that character matters. And when I look at the challenge of character in the building of Nigerian economy, I recognize that we need a new beginning. We need to flush out people who lack character, to put in place, to run Nigeria, people of character. And so on to the third part. Who over this? Where do we go from here? Let me say that one of the big problems with those who run the Nigerian economy is that they don't know the Nigerian people. And one of the good fortunes that I have had is that I know Nigeria. As I say often and with pride, I was born in Kaduna, baptized in Jos, spent part of my infancy in Maiduguri, started school in Kano, and finished primary education in Guzo before coming to Onitsha. I know Nigeria, and I know that every part of Nigeria is endowed enough to be a wellspring of wealth for everybody. I keep saying that I can go to any state in Nigeria and have a personal friend in whose house I can sleep. Because many people have not done this to themselves. I was telling Mohammed Hayatuddin, who I'm sitting next to there, if I go to Maiduguri, I'll sleep in his house. If I come to Ibadan, they'll be dragging where I will go to sleep and all of that. And so you don't feel the people. Unless you can feel the people, understand the people, you will not be able to commit to building the economy. And so the challenge of economic development in Nigeria is a challenge of not getting validation from Washington and Paris. It's a challenge of feeling the people and recognizing that central to economic development are those people. Economics must be people-centered. The troubles that we have today is that we say that we need for the purposes of growth to go into economic stabilization. I say that is a lie. Why do I say it is a lie? I was one of those who spoke the grammar in this country in the 80s about economic stabilization. I can go to economic books and I tell you about how we use concepts like the J-curve to explain stabilization. But what happened? Did the growth come? After privatization, which made some people rich, after financial service restructuring, which made some people rich, the growth did not come. So I spent time in Asia, in Malaysia, in Singapore, in Indonesia, and all those places, trying to understand what they did differently. I was at the World Bank annual meeting in Hong Kong in October 1997, where the thing came to a head. I remember the split between Mahathir Ibn Mohamad, Prime Minister of Malaysia, and his Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, Anwar Ibrahim. In October 1997, I wrote a piece from Jakarta, I published in The Guardian, that was titled The End of Anwar Ibrahim. It was about how a misordered understanding of those policies from the Washington Consensus split these two people. And Western media tried to push Anwar Ibrahim forward. But what do we know? Of course, the police of Malaysia pushed out Anwar. A few years later, the same IMF would say that Mahathir Mohamad's choice was the better choice. So I long rejected those stabilization policies. They said, these people do not understand our economies. What we have going for us is that Nigeria is a richly endowed country. And that from every single part of Nigeria, there are factor endowments whose value chains can make us one of the richest people on earth. But our politicians have been too lazy, far too lazy to do the needful. If I go to Sokoto and take Gom Arabic and take any of those date palms and all of that and construct a chemical industry, Sokoto can be richer than Rivers State. If I go to Yola, Waziri's neighborhood, and take the endowment of that flora and fauna, we can create a corridor that is richer than any part of southern Nigeria. If I come to Rivers, I can take the hydrocarbons value chain and build a global enterprise. But our politicians have been too lazy. The weight of oil and the cost of oil inflicts on us a no-growth economy. And we impoverish our people and we get called the poverty capital of the world. We must turn this around. A few fundamental things we have to do. Let's ask ourselves, what did the Chinese do that changed the course in 1978 from being worse than us to much, much better than us today? What did Deng Xiaoping do? Go and read the speeches he gave in 1978, especially the speech he gave in December of 1978 at the Congress of the Chinese people. And you will see the importance of education, and people of knowledge. Here we have a political class that says na grammar will go chop, and we are dying of hunger. Yes, grammar is the basis for our getting ahead and moving forward. If our people are properly enlightened and given the way forward. Suharto in Indonesia, he had a group of economists that were basically trained at University of California, Berkeley, and so they were called the Berkeley Mafia. In the early 1960s, they were saying to the Indonesians, if only you could be like Nigeria. By the 1990s, they were saying to Nigeria, if only you could be like Indonesia. Why did this reversal of fortunes come to us? I believe the time is now to get rid of those who want Washington to validate them and get people who want their people to start starving. This challenge is the challenge I bring to you. The voice of the people is the voice of God. And the people are saying to us, go forward, take this country and renew it. And God will help us renew the face of the earth. Thank you. God bless you.